Hey, dude.
Hey, how's it going?
It's going very well today.
Must be pretty cool being at the summit.
I'm actually not there. That would be CMOS that's there.
Oh, sorry,
Nah,
Richard.
no worries.
I'm talking to
Yeah.
Richard.
Yep.
Sorry.
No worries.
Well, it's good that it's a good day.
It is a good day. It's a beautiful day up in Northern California, which is where I am.
I'm in just transitioning from winter to spring, Canberra.
Oh, yeah? Nice.
Yeah, it's not a bad little part of the world.
Radio check.
We can hear you.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yes.
Awesome. Clearly?
Yes.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Oh, I actually don't recognize your name, Nava. What username do I know you under?
Pixel Hacks.
Aha.
Yeah, I should put that up somewhere.
You know what I just realized? Like probably half of the Cardano, or actually 90% of available Cardano audience is busy with Cardano Summit.
Yeah, no doubt.
I didn't want to rain on your parade, but I thought that might be the case.
Yes. Pain is the best teacher, they say.
I find that's not the case, actually. So they who say it are generally folks who haven't had to learn through pain versus learn through love. Just saying out loud.
Oh, I hear you.
Yes.
Yes, that makes
like that.
perfect
That's
sense.
very-
I was an unloved child. Google pretty much taught me how to do everything.
Yes. Yes.
All right, so I want to share. I want to share a screen here.
Actually, Richard, that's an interesting view because I think when I met my wife's family, I realized what a real family was like until then, and then I was thinking I would have much preferred this.
Yes. Yes, indeed. I think if it doesn't kill you, it makes you stronger. Pain is the best teacher. Stories are the stories that people tell about the experiences that they had, that they had better have learned something from it, or it was just pain.
Yeah.
It was just suffering, right?
Yeah, it's human capability.
Yeah, except they are getting their causal arrow turned around. In other words, just because you're experiencing pain, that doesn't mean you're going to learn something. Right? So it's the act of being willing to learn. It's not the pain.
A wise man can learn from a fool, but a fool very rarely learns from anyone.
Yes. Oh, I like that one. Oh, pardon my. If the background noise gets to be too much, I apologize.
It's all right.
Okay. So, CMOS, if you're talking, I'm not hearing you.
Nope, I'm just pulling up the itinerary right now.
Okay, cool. Perfect. I am envious that you are actually at the summit. I wish I was there. I just don't see myself voluntarily going to a hotel. I don't have to right now.
The event is great. Everything else is horrific. The W is terrible, god awful, godforsaken.
Oh, what? You don't like paying $400 a night for a room that really rates maybe 150?
You know what I come to the W for? The degradation.
Right. The opportunity to have somebody look down their nose at you. It's, it's a glorious experience.
form.
Okay. So, Nava,
Yeah.
can I ask about your name?
Yeah,
It's
you
a,
sure can.
am I correct in that it's an unusual name? Or am I not?
It's unusual, I guess, for a Westerner.
Right.
You know,
Yeah.
like an Aussie. But it's a short form of a Sanskrit name that I was given by my spiritual teacher, I guess you call guru. When I was about 18. So at 47, I probably have pretty much lived in it long enough for it to be my proper name. But yeah, that's
Very
its genesis. Yeah, the long version of it is Navasunda, which is a particular word for or a name in Sanskrit, which
I
is
love
the
Sanskrit.
indigenous. Yeah, if you know what Sanskrit is, you know where
I
it comes
do,
from.
in fact. One of the, if not, it is the first written language.
It is, yeah.
So in that way, right? Okay, what was the name of it with the deliberator and the Namshubs? Neil Stevenson.
Okay. Neil Stevenson, yeah.
Neil Stevenson's book with hero protagonist was the main character, and it was, oh my goodness, I can't.
Peaceful Warrior.
Snow Crash. Snow Crash.
Snow Crash. Yeah.
Snow Crash. It's science fiction.
I haven't actually read Snow Crash yet.
Oh, you know what? You might like it because one of the
I know
things
it's
that they
fairly
do.
seminal.
Yeah, one of the things he does is he draws a line between the first language and the deep structures in the brain, and that's essentially what's happening. Is somebody's figured out how to access the programming language of the brain using the first language, and so there are Namshubs and everything. It's really kind of cool.
I like that.
Yeah, me too. I am fascinated by linguistics and language and how people
absolutely
think.
I think if I hadn't got into art, it'd have to have been languages.
Yeah, you know, I just recently reconnected with my artistic side, and it's been quite revelatory. I wish I'd done more of it in my life.
I wish I'd been more what do you call it, bloody minded, and just stuck with it rather than, you know.
But, I approve of bloody mindedness. I do.
I didn't get your comment to work, but I was reading through it and I really liked it. You were basically providing a synopsis of Dropnir. Provides a systematic way to manage and define the innovations seen in the broad NFT ecosystem toward providing benefit for collectors and artists. Yes.
I tried. I don't know whether I succeeded or not, but I'm just trying to get my head around it, and that was kind of where I'm at with it.
Yes, you pretty much got it. We're talking about two distinct things when we talk about power with tokens. Napsha is a B2B service that produces these token gates, which are scripts you can place on any page, whereby anything a computer can do is conditional upon you owning an NFT. And in the case of Napsha, it must be an isolated, simple, single-use case of logging in. Napsha should make logging in a lot easier for e-commerce. So
speaking of, I saw something that really rang my bell, and I just am now remembering it, and I wanted to point it out, and it's called a magic link. And what it said was, never log in again.
Huh.
Sounds scary.
I think that's one of the things that I recognize about, and I did put that in, I guess, at the bottom of that text I sent you, CMOS, was I think the beauty of what you've done is I'll just kind of digress. I can't help myself. I digress a bit, but you know, in the Japanese parlance, you know, of design, you know, the beautiful object, or you know, in kendo, for example, the beautiful cut. You know, it's not about being able to whack somebody on the head. It's about doing it with style, basically, right? Or in the Western sense, you know, if something's worth doing, it's worth doing right.
Mm.
And I think that's what I see in what you've created, is that you're actually attempting to kind of bring together the innovation that is happening into a cohesive, understandable format. And I think where, and particularly, like, I think if Cardano NFT space is not looking at where Ether is, I think that they're missing a lot of the innovation that's already happened using smart contracts, etc. And we have, as I guess, an ecosystem, if we're going to be Cardano about it, is we have the ability to be able to look at those innovations or those developments of technology and bring them into the Cardano space in a more polished, you know, and functional way. And I mean, that kind of fits with, if Cardano is the third generation, then the solutions that we're doing in the space should also be third generation, you know,
100%.
to do with NFTs and do with, you know, the way drops are done and the way onboarding is done and the way, you know, all of the, and value, you know, and utility and all these sorts of things. We have a unique position to be able to actually grab that experience and that knowledge and, you know, put it into a better, you know, functional system.
Yeah, absolutely. What I've been noticing when the topic of utility comes up is that it can sometimes be seen as a threat to the value of the creative power that the artist labors over. That it might be seen as sprinkling salt on their game, creating an animation or some additional gimmick as a financial a money-making base layer on their hard labor, their passion.
Yep.
And I believe that where utility is first going to merge with NFTs the most is in the benefit of, in the service of the artist. Until we get to what I think is the fourth phase, where smart contracts manage each article. Tokens, they currently just are not at the place where a person like Taylor Swift, for example, release an album on an IPFS link, or do a type of drop with platforms and hit and miss ratios that we have today. Everybody
I
has
think it's
a lot of great ideas. A lot of them are the exact same ideas. Nothing wrong with that. But why would everybody rush towards making something similar that's amazing, but only works on their website?
Yes.
Well, actually, to take a step back and up, people do that all the time. And this is how you get like proprietary streaming services, like the one that I just watched a concert on 2 nights ago. And forgive me, it was the violinist, the woman violinist. My partner loves her. And I got one of those one-time links. And you know that as an artist, she paid a lot of money to get that distribution network plugged in all the way down to my device, where only one viewer can see it at a time. And I can tell you, it was very fungible. It did not work well. Like, we ended up having problems where I got kicked out of the link I got, and we couldn't figure out why. And so I know as an artist, she's going to get that feedback, right? And it's going to hurt her as an artist that there were people who had problems getting access to her content when they had paid for that content. And it was a proprietary network completely, right? Like, I'll guarantee you, she doesn't have the kind of oversight into what that network was actually doing on her behalf that she would have with something like this, with something like Glass, frankly, right? And so
she was trusting. Yeah,
that's right. Exactly. And that's the thing, right? So it's not that people aren't going to do those proprietary things. They're doing it and they're making bundles and bundles of money, but it's not on behalf of the artists.
no.
Right. Now, they, of course, make money because they are enabling the artists. So they bring value to the table, no doubt about it. The question is whether or not that value has the same kind of gravitas and also auditability. That's the part that really bothers me, is that most of the channels by which an artist or any creator, and frankly, this is something that I shared in a one-on-one with Abe, was this is a problem in the scientific community, actually, because scientists, researchers are not incentivized to share because it's a hassle. And the reason why it's a hassle is because provenance. It's really hard to prove chain of custody of somebody's input when it's over email. And that kind of stuff really matters in the professional research space, where things like double signatures at the end of the day inside of the lab notebook is a common practice, right? So, you know, from where I'm sitting, the fact that there is this, you know, this huge amount of potential and work and creativity that is sitting inside of human beings, and it enters these opaque networks where they're a hub and spoke model. They can be centrally controlled, and they can be basically used to the detriment of the participants. And this is social media, this is artists' content networks, this is scientific research networks. It's pretty much how things have been built for so long that we don't think about it in any other terms. And one of the things that Abe did is he drove it all the way to the technology that would actually make it work. And that's the part that has got me in this call. So I'm glad that you brought it up. And I don't think it's a digression, because for me, I wouldn't be here if I hadn't found Glass. And the only way I found Glass was he dropped it in the IOHK Discord server for anybody to read, right?
Yeah.
So, you know,
technically, tokens could be used for clocking into work. In that same laboratory scenario, you could have an ID pass and a local web server that's not connected to the internet could have a token gate, whereby if you're validating your token, you obviously are at work.
So hold on a second. Let's talk about this for a second. One of the things about, yeah. So one of the things I told you, remember, is that what you designed fundamentally could drive an entire protocol data layer within a network, right? Like, and so as an example, one of the challenges right now is when I send an email, right? I ship it off to the mail server that is my hub, and then it ships it off into wherever. And then it arrives at the recipient. Now, how do I determine that it arrived at the recipient? I have to call you. Did you get the email? Right? How is that possible right now in this day and age? That I, as a user, can't track my own email, but I'll guarantee you it's being tracked. And I know this for a fact because I can do it technically, right? I have the technical expertise, but it's not baked into the system that I would be able to figure that out. And that's in fact a model for how we built the internet, frankly. And it doesn't have to be that way.
Yeah, that's a extremely flexible and widely ranged, widely applicable use for token gating. Basically, you're talking about either a chat app or an email app or pretty much any uh, of these standard flavors of data sharing that we have today, but done through a token to verify the send.
Well, no, what you would do is, so here's the thing, right? The piece that makes your solution truly graceful, and that's why Nava's comment about the cut strikes home for me, is that you're not trying to do all the work inside the smart contracts. You're using the tokens as the piece of data that we carry around that enables functionality. So then you just take that and drive it all the way down throughout the architecture, right? And then my email has an NFT token, and every step of the way is a token gate.
Wow.
Right. And one of the things that this does also is it allows for the direct monetization, the correct kind of monetization of the travel of that packet. One of the problems that we have on the internet right now is that the monetization of the internet is obfuscated. And so what that allows the hubs to do is oversell and overprice, because nobody really knows what their capacity is. Nobody really knows what they're actually selling. And, you know, the
monetization is a total black box.
Yes.
You have to do whatever you have to do to get popular. That's not healthy. And then monetization begins, and other people's ads that are extremely granularly targeted.
Yes.
As an e-commerce expert, yeah, as a 15-year veteran of pretty much people online in an aggregated form, and managing PPC ads, the amount of tracking and the way that it's leveraged and the power with which people with means can reach psychological profiles to achieve what they want is starting to become untenable. It's starting to become harmful, and I believe we're hearing rumblings now. You hear them everywhere, but in the next couple of years, it's really going to be a problem, and that is why Cardano generally, because of the security of its UTXO model. And I think everybody is in such a rush to make an app, they're not really thinking about what happens after they sell that product.
Yes.
They're also making crypto solutions for crypto people.
Yeah, I guess I love this project. I mean, I'm no doubt human nature affects us all, and I would love to be able to get an NFT and increase my bags and make lots of money. Right? That's a given. But you know, I don't know what if for whatever reason I'm chastened by some kind of moral, ethical compass, and you know, I always seek to either increase value or at least meaning into whatever I'm doing. And I think one of the things that sort of iterates what you're saying is about that dynamic is we're kind of in a place where we're almost playing the race to the bottom game, you know, where, you know, like there is no value in the NFT. It's just all about trying to maximize a personal gain and et cetera, et cetera. And I think if we don't have something like this come into the space, we're actually seeking to only, in a sense, you know, devolve or, you know, create our own, you know, short-term destruction, or which would be a shame, because I think in general NFT concept, you know, the concept of an NFT within the bigger picture of cryptocurrency and digital transformation of you know, or everything, is still like looks like or feels like, you know, when somebody throws pearls or gold or something on the ground, and you're kind of like a child or a baby, and you just pick them up and you play with them as cars, and you build buildings and you do all these sorts of things. You haven't inherently unlocked the true potential of that material yet. You know,
Yeah,
and I think
we're not really having a discussion about like the inevitable ceilings or limitations of the native token, and therefore how it ought to be used or what its
it's insane.
proper places.
I
And
mean, I'm not a tech person, but I just sense the incredibleness of it, you know?
so
It
instead
is.
of a token having a link to a picture that's not on the blockchain in metadata, that was awesome. But now we're kind of diverging into this like gross phase where you have
Yes.
social media influencers teaching you how to flip, and it's getting further and further away from what I think the
Hey,
Cardano community wants generally, which is a merge of the physical and digital, which
hey
would be
guys,
reverence for artists. Hey, what's up?
Hey,
Hey,
can I ask you something?
Please?
yeah.
What I'm not English. I'm not my native language. But what is the Cardano giving for the community that is special? You know, what is the what is giving from the problems we have in the ecosystem? You know, I don't know if I'm explaining too well, but
I can answer
I
that.
want to know.
yeah,
Yeah.
sounds good
Okay.
question.
Thanks.
So basically, it
Yeah.
is the security and the assurance that comes from the scientifically tested extended UTXO model. The UTXO model originated with Bitcoin, actually. And then Ethereum.
Security. I only understand security. Sorry, but I
Security.
think it's
Um,
yeah.
and okay, let me see if I could put this through. Security. Um, Ethereum is more like a video game where anything can
Mm-hmm.
happen, good and bad. Cardano is like math or reality. It is what it is.
Actually, can I
Mm-hmm.
stop you?
Yeah.
I'm just going to say this. Nava said it very well when he was talking about phases. And really what it is it's generation. He said generations. And it's technical maturity. Bitcoin was the first one to show up. It
Yeah.
had some fundamental architectural problems, not least of which was that it was a proof of work based blockchain, which is the reason why China has shut it down completely, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
In other words, in terms of bad decision making around architecture, that's one really glaring example of how it can really mess things up over the long term. Ethereum, smart contracts was a bolt-on, and its initial introduction, smart contracts introduction into Ethereum was incredibly disruptive because of that. And they've never really, frankly, in my opinion, recovered from the fact that they didn't architect smart contracts into their blockchain from the ground up. And I don't think that they can recover from it in time to stay relevant when Cardano, on the other hand, has built their entire blockchain around, as CMOS said, scientifically proven methodologies for architecture and software. So they have provable contracts. In other words, you can run your contracts through a series of simulations to determine and
Right.
actually estimate what your cost is going to be on the blockchain. And they admit to not being perfect, as all scientists must. And they give you an idea of how imperfect they are by saying things like, the simulation will be a little bit lower than, and you can expect it to be about this much higher when you run it on the actual chain. Now, to me, what that looks and smells like is a maturity level. Cardano is bringing a scientific approach to the blockchain that nobody else has done. And the outcome is going to be that Cardano is going to eat Ethereum's lunch. Ethereum
That's
just can't recover from it.
That's good, but this
So
also gives the scalability. I don't know how to say in English. Sorry,
no,
but
scalability. So let me talk about
the amount
yeah.
of contracts in a minimum. Fuck.
No. I know what you're trying to go to. So smart
Yes.
contracts. How are they going to scale using the protocols they have? And that's what I mean when I say that they have approached this scientifically. So Ouroboros, which is the blockchain's protocol, that is essentially what has to scale the network, is designed to support a global transaction count. So everything that I've read, all of the capacity planning documents that I've read around Cardano point to the likelihood of a globally scaled blockchain using Cardano and Cardano smart contracts. And
you can simulate the transaction before you send it. And that is the reason why governments will accept Cardano and will never accept Ethereum.
That's exactly right. 100%. Because it's provable.
That's good to know.
Right. And then the other part that I want to just speak to very quickly, because in my mind as a technologist, this is critical, is that Cardano is built based on a philosophy of decentralization. And
that's the critical
point. And so fundamentally, even at the network layer, it is a decentralized network. And when you then go read some of the, like for instance, I've mentioned this on other calls here, there's a white paper on IOHK called Conclave. And what that is that is a trustless consensus model for running a stake pool. Now, anybody who's read anything about one of the challenges in any financial network is centralization, because that is where you end up with bottlenecks and you end up with the ability for a single actor to perturb the network in a negative fashion. And Cardano has been built in such a way, and this is the proof of stake model, that people are incentivized not to perturb the network in a negative way. In other words, bad actors can operate on the network, but it's much less likely because in order for them to operate on the network with any kind of power, they have to have a lot of stake in the network, which means they have a real skin in the game if they screw something up. So when I talk about it in terms of,
I'm a rock star. I'm gonna go to Mars. I'm gonna go to V.
MacBook Pro for a second. Anyway, so the point is the decentralization part. So, you asked, I think it was Miguelito. Is that correct?
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah. So
yes,
Miguelito,
I'm from Spain.
Hello, Miguelito from Spain. I'm Richard from California in the United States.
Nice to meet you.
Yeah, nice to meet you too. So what does Cardano do for the community? Well, one of the things it does is it drives towards a decentralized financial network where transactions can occur between individuals without having to use a trusted third party like a bank.
Yeah, but that's all from blockchain. I mean, that's all the I want to know the different from the other
I got you.
Crypto coins. I want to know the essential.
This is why I am only on Cardano. Probably.
Yeah, me too.
Bitcoin was the first. It was an amazing invention. Did more for the accounting model since the abacus people say. So it was very innovative, but extremely limited. Bitcoin actually is a smart contract, but it's only for validating transactions. Ethereum, it has a market cap only because it has a gigantic first mover manage. It amazed the world with the potential of smart contracts. That was a very long time ago.
Yes, absolutely.
Now I see Ethereum as the new Microsoft, always promising a new patch around the horizon that is going to be unhackable or with lower fees. The fact that the gas fees make it impossible for poorer people to join in any type of activity when it is when the network is most hot means that it was intentionally designed to be prohibitive. And I disagree with this simplistic mathematical principle.
Thank you.
If the
I gotta go.
computer
I gotta
is
go.
too
Thank you.
busy, then just make the people who can't afford it not use it. But the people who can afford, let's say, 500 times or 5 times more than you actually pay for in gas fees, the rich people will do that because they understand that they have access to the network when it's clogged and they are the only ones in the playground. I don't like it. Cardano doesn't, the way that it's framed
So,
doesn't give
Abe,
value, special credit to any type of person.
Abe, Miguelito exited. So that was a drive-by, I think, maybe. We'll see.
Oh, at least he was interested.
Yeah, no, that's actually, I liked his question. Like, what does Cardano bring to the table that is different? Although I'm not sure that we ever actually answered the question that he wanted answered.
I don't think he was listening to the answer to the question.
Oh, yeah, I wasn't going to say that out loud.
Bitcoin, no smart contracts. Ethereum, smart contracts that break and are expensive and will make you want to kill yourself. Cardano, smart contracts.
Look, I just think it's. I mean, I think I've got a good perspective.
Yeah.
Not because I'm smart or intelligent or any other, but for one reason only, and that is I came into the ecosystem as, you know, like intending to engage in it at the beginning of this year. Like I knew about Ethereum and Bitcoin from 2010, you know, but for whatever reason, I just never gave it any attention. My son and his mates, he's 22 now, they bought Ethereum when it was 5 cents to buy drugs on, you know, Silk Road and stuff like that. You know, they'd be millionaires right now if they weren't stupid and sold it when it got to 30 cents and, you know, whatever.
Well, they wanted their drugs.
They wanted their drugs and they you know, they succeeded.
Yeah.
But you know, I think, and they also did all the stupid things like those stories of people, you know, losing 1,000 Ethereum and all of that crap. But I didn't engage in it at all until, you know, beginning of this year. And when I did it and I was buying some Ethereum, I was buying some, looking at doing the due diligence and looking at Cardano, and I bought some XRP and I did all of the things. And then when trading it from an exchange to a wallet, I was like, hang on, what the fuck? Like XRP, Litecoin, Cardano, I just pay like 1 Cardano and I can, or 1 ADA, and I can transfer, you know, 100 of it or whatever. But I go and do Ethereum. And so for me, as an adopter at the beginning of this year, it was a no-brainer that Ethereum was dead to me. It was nothing.
That's right.
You know,
the cost of doing business on Ethereum's network is just too high.
Too much for normal mums and dads and people coming into the system, you know.
And that won't scale either. Right?
No.
And that's, you know, when you're talking about building a decentralized financial network that governments are going to sign on for, you can't not do something at the global level. I mean, it's going to need to have the kind of oversight that satisfies the Fed.
Something that can be scientifically proven to not be hackable. And with Ethereum smart contract, the way it's framed, anything is possible, including it breaking in a million ways. And that's why governments would not be able to consider adopting this currency if they found that crypto could benefit.
Yeah.
Now, Alonso just launched, and I assume a bunch of amazing apps going to come out. But there's a thing that happens with the market where it says, and over a period of enough pain, somebody resolves an issue. I think we're just on the cusp of people getting sick and tired of hearing, you paid how much you pay, and what does it do? Flipping is very exciting. Buying the art is very exciting, but now you have to consider.
Are you messing with your microphone, Abe?
Maybe.
Okay.
Better now?
Yeah.
Much better now.
This is probably where the bubble is going to pop. And it,
Right.
Artists, as Cardano gets more popular, artists that are in the middle of nowhere, who maybe have a gallery in New York and LA and have never even heard of Cardano, might have a guy walk into their gallery and say, oh my gosh, I actually saw that on the internet. Somebody paid $500,000 for that. How do you think that artist would feel?
Right.
Knowing somebody is like pulling it off of Google search, and he's just been home in Kansas for the past 30 years doing his business. This is where like siloed sites and siloed solutions are not really going to help, and therefore
I think also artists like so my business partner in this Abstraction Series, he you know, or the creative team, or the as part of, you know, whatever partnership forms from it, it's he has no, you know, crypto experience at all, and it's taken me, I guess, a lot to, you know, educate him, to tell him about my experience, and to talk about my, you know, due diligence in why Cardano and, you know, what other blockchains. And then he sent me a link to a mate who's on Hen, and which is the Tezos system. And there's a lot of good stuff there. There's like amazing, like I'd say predominantly the Hen system's free of a lot of shit, actually.
on Tezos?
Yeah,
As a stable coin now.
Yeah. What is that? XTZ or whatever it is. Yeah, anyway, it's I'll get up the link in a second. But it but there's a, you know, so there's also Chris Wall, who is a Marvel DC artist and has been working with the Punks comic, and that whole which I think is actually quite an interesting use case of technology innovation. And I think they've kind of evolved the scene in Ethereum towards the types of mechanics that Dropnir talks about. And they've done this kind of value adding, you know, they've created now a DAO system. They've got internal kind of minting for owners, and
what's a DAO system?
Decentralized autonomous, what is it? Decentralized
Organization.
Yeah, autonomous organization.
They did. That's very interesting.
No, it's really
Oh
worth
my
a look.
God, the leader though, I'm a fan.
And yeah, so, you know, like those artists, I mean, so Chris Weil, he also has gone into that Hen ecosystem. And I think what happens is, what will happen is that artists will just go where other artists are without really necessarily understanding what they're getting into, the technology or the functionality of it. And so, you know, there's that as well. You know, so yeah, I just wanted to kind of say that. don't really have a way of finishing that conversation.
Right. One way to flip this game on its head until we can come to making something like Glass a reality, where a smart contract is for music manager, but for one instant smart contract per article. Until we can get there, Napsters makes sense as a next step, and it seems to be more in line to what I see Cardano's future being, as more of a constellation of smart contract services that build layers, as opposed to the way Ethereum's going, where the sky's the limit on what you can make, and therefore the sky's the limit on the scope and the ability to have it all fail. Now, instead of there's going to have to be a big jump, but people are going to have to just stop looking at NFTs as art altogether, and start looking at NFTs as a token that represents your authority over that. You could possess an NFT that proves beyond a doubt that you are the owner of the art piece, and that token doesn't even have to have the art on it. Because through Alonzo, through utility, through off-chain validation, it is the possession of that token that gives you the power to open the door to a house you own, to sell an art piece, which means that the reference to that art could be digital or physical. But the point is, art has limits, and we're reaching those limits by trying to put it all on NFTs. There's a lot of disconnect in the real world with art. Pixelhack, are you frozen? I know.
Yeah.
There's a big disconnect. You have CNFTs and you have real artists pouring their heart out and trying to get on the blockchain. But what about all of the complicated, serious financial logic that it goes without saying when it comes to protecting artists' intellectual property? Singers, painters, any producer, Dave Chappelle would love something like caption or glass.
Yeah, he could utilize it perfectly.
The NFT is not the show, it's your ticket.
Yeah.
NFT
100%.
is not the art, it is the receipt that proves you're the owner of the art.
So the way I would describe that, I think, is the NFT represents your rights to that art. Because isn't that really the language that gets used?
Yep.
Right? So if you're an artist, you
currency.
reserve all rights, except for those which you sell to the person who paid you to do that art. Right? Isn't that how it works in the real world of artists making a living?
Yeah.
With token gating, you could say you can dictate who gets to see, who gets to sell, who gets to trade or burn. Pretty much these are all like analogous to rights that an owner of a buyer of a physical art piece would have, right? And then when you get into bigger artists, perhaps music artists, more complicated forms of art, for us to take a giant chunk out of mainstream, or better yet, just have the worlds merge, you're going to need to figure out a way to accommodate this giant existing legal layer for protecting in real life artists. They have to be synonymous, digital and real.
Do you mean IP control or trademark, patenting, that sort of thing?
Yes. I always think back to Taylor Swift not being able to make money in quite the ways that they want. Taylor Swift is actually in the similar position in a way as a person trying to make money on YouTube. You're not in control of your success. The terms of your performance are dictated, and your rewards are dictated. So we want to invert that, make it impossible for anybody but the artist to dictate the things that you do with the art, the consumption of it.
Yeah, I mean, isn't that literally the whole, raison d'etre of blockchain, is to, in a sense, bring people closer together, actually, between and remove, I guess, this convoluted system we've created of middlemen and management done by others that have really no other role other than to, you know, take a cut for their, you know, brokerage or whatever.
So I think it's a mistake to think that they have no other value, right? And that's the part that is, at least for me, see, I don't see the middle layer, all of it being waste, because
No.
it started somehow, right?
I guess what I mean is like Kandinsky, you know, wrote
Yes.
his paper on the spiritual in art, point, line, and plane, and he described civilization like an isosceles triangle. And so he used the analogy of Jesus, you know, as the pinnacle, but over time the isosceles triangle sort of goes like this, and as it goes up, the peak gets, you know, revealed more and more, and so the Jesus, you know, becomes more and more, everybody becomes like Jesus, you know. And so I think the middle has kind of taken that over, but, you know, the artist, you know, I guess the more, what I'm trying to say is we can't eliminate that layer, and it has its use and utility, but it also has become,
It
you know,
serves itself now, actually, I think is what you're trying to say.
Yeah.
Right. And so I think you're right about that. And there's,
yeah,
interestingly enough, decentralization brings people closer together.
Yeah, that's all I'm saying is,
Isn't
like,
that
now,
fascinating?
yeah, now I have a chance to maybe have some control over my art making and art produce.
Yes.
Whereas I didn't have that. Now, I'm not saying everybody's going to avail themselves to that or have that opportunity, but more people will. And I think that's obviously a good progress, you know.
Well, folks, I'm going to go ahead and drop. I think I've done my thing for the evening. It was
8:36.
pleasant.
Excellent.
Yeah, it was a
It
pleasure.
was fantastic.
5 minutes over.
Yeah.
I think we did good. Much
Yeah, I think
appreciated,
so.
Rich.
Yeah, this is good. I like talking about it at the philosophical level. I think as we get more work done, the philosophical discussions will become more tactical and strategic, which is just fine with me too.
Even within the simple framework of NAPSHA allowing people to log in with a token, even that can get crazy if you want to.
Well, you're like, for instance, the stuff you were doing with the frog, right? I mean, exactly right. The login token doesn't necessarily have to be just a string of numbers, right?
And technically,
and also, and
yeah,
actually, this is the venue for me to ask the question. If anybody knows of methodology or software that can turn QR codes into art that are still legible as QR codes by the,
I feel like that's a thing.
yeah,
I think
I
I've seen
feel like
that
it is
somewhere.
too. So that, as an example, right? I mean, that right there turns your NFT into something that is tangible and interesting, especially if you stamp it on something like I don't know, a gold coin. Anyway, I'm gonna drop. I love this. I will talk to you guys next week.
Thanks, Richard.
Yep.
I don't know, CMOS, if you wanted me to still do a presentation or not.
yes, absolutely. On Abstraction Series.
Yeah.
This would be the perfect time to do it.
All
So
right.
pull up the website, or do you want to do a screen share?
Can we do a screen share? Otherwise I can send it to you, but I've just made up a little PowerPoint.
I am putting you on. Maybe making
Can't.
maybe making you the host fix thing.
Yeah, can you just anybody can screen share?
I believe so.
Okay. It says I'll stop your screen sharing by doing this. Is that okay?
Bam.
Yeah. Can you see?
Project benefit, artisan.
I am screen sharing. Sometimes it's wacky, does weird things, doesn't do what you want it to do.
Thanks.
All right, can you see that? Abstraction series. And I mean to put proposed partnership, but you know, being presumptuous there. Present level. So Abstraction Series was a project, I guess birthed about a year ago, a little bit more than a year ago, by a friend of mine and myself. We've known each other about 20 years, studied at university art college together, and he'd just recently come back from Tokyo after finishing his PhD there. And so he just came down for a few days to visit me, and he kind of wanted to play and do some art. And he had this idea, questions he asked, you know, how many times can you divide a plane into 2 equal parts with one line, straight line? And so I said, okay, we worked it out, you know, played around with some bit of paper and said, well, 3, you know, vertical, horizontal, diagonal. And then he said, well, what can you do with 2 lines dissecting a plane in equal parts? And we went, can only really do diagonal cross and vertical horizontal cross. At which point I kind of then threw in a bit of an anomaly and said, okay, well, we want to do, I reckon we want to do 9, you know, different possible shapes. And this is also relating back to, I guess, formalist constructs about art making on the visible plane, and referencing, you know, the whole canon of geometric abstraction and the process from, you know, objective to non-objective art. And so in a sense, it's kind of, I guess, the equivalent from the scientific realm within the creative artistic realm of looking at base principles, you know, foundation blocks of just line and you know, mark making.
How am I to interpret these 9 blocks?
They're a schemata. So they're a schemata of, I guess, quintessential forms, you know, like first forms, you know, like, I guess you've got
the most basic logical shapes.
The most basic logical shapes you can make with line on a plane. And so the frame is the limiting, you know, factor of the plane. But if you take the frame away, you know, there's infinity, right, for the plane.
Could this be used to pixelate an image? Abstract away a graphic?
I don't know. I assume, you know, there's lots of ways that we can experiment with what this could do.
I wonder if Abstraction Series could somehow come up with some sort of reliable abstractive hashing algorithm, whereby an art piece could be hacked into an abstraction series. Do you think that would be possible with enough boxes?
It'd be extremely interesting to do as a like experiment.
Almost like ASCII art.
Yeah.
But perhaps in color.
So it decodes an image into these shapes. Yeah, I mean, it must be, is actually the answer, because if you look at subatomic structures, you know, you only end up with very few actual building blocks. You know, I mean, that was the basis of, you know, Mandelbrot fractal, you know, theory. And And then if you look at Frobel's research into crystals, who Frobel was a German researcher who is credited with starting the first kindergarten through his, interest in education. And so he created these gifts, 21 gifts. And, a lot of this abstraction series is basically also inspired by that kind of research. But before he entered into that phase, he was studying crystals, and he is actually credited with the founding of understanding basically 16 basic crystalline structures exist. And so he named all of those. And from that, he created his, what they're called gifts, but he basically structured rudimentary art shapes and projects to go with humanistic kind of development of the brain and the body and things like that. So they're all things I'd like to kind of bring in as kind of background, but it's going to take.
Do you suppose that there's any way that after a type of mapping has been made to of an image to an abstraction, that a form of meaning can then be made, or an aggregated scoring of some kind can be made on the abstraction for analysis? I'm going way out of left field by suggesting something like skin quality. If you take a picture of the back of your hand and the abstraction hash happens to turn out a percentage of shapes that seem to be consistent with skin issues, do you see that making any academic sense whatsoever?
I think when you apply logical structures to seemingly illogical processes, I think that you quickly see that everything actually is structured around logic of some kind to do with shape and form, and that they then actually become essentialized down to the basic shapes and forms. So
you'd say that maybe an
absolutely.
AI that can detect a tumor would already be doing such a thing. Is what you're saying?
Yeah. I think we're getting close to that. And I think if you get back to looking at the visual elements of those kind of AI intelligences, or at least the kind of logic that you're talking about applying, that there is going to be, there's going to be an art to it. There's going to be an absolute dimension there that you can extrapolate and see, some kind of view or vision that's never been, witnessed before. But then once you kind of get past that novelty, you actually can see real utility, in terms of, it's very interesting what you're saying. Completely.
Taking that a step further, assuming that creating a reliable abstractive hash from an image, and then perhaps being able to compare hard numbers of those abstractions, perhaps by even counting clusters, you might be able to create a platform by which anybody could invent their own methods of AI analysis, or essentially anything that they want.
Yeah.
A super flexible platform, for example, you would literally be able to make up anything. If you cared about skin color, or if you wanted to identify a certain type of mushroom in a forest, perhaps every single thing in which you would use an AI to resolve an issue could be done through this abstraction set, which could be programmed through an interface that would be built to hold customers' designs, the designs by which they map a certain percentage of funky boxes means candy. And it doesn't have to be accurate. You just have to create an accurate platform by which serious and unserious people are allowed to make their own AI map.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, I mean, I think that's what I really love about nervous algorithms by Turbo Egan, Stella Hood's guy, who I chatted to about this. And he, but you know, like he's got this, he created the on-chain use of the unsig algorithm, and then but it's still something that people can play with. And I think that whatever you bring to market when it comes to this sort of level of type of art, you know, that's merged with mathematics and merged with possibility of interacting with so many different layers or logics, the beauty is allowing people to actually have access to it and not sort of clamping it down. It'd be amazing to see
Another
if you allow
advantage
that
you
kind
have
of open
is-
source, you know. But then what you're saying is you could actually have, say, AI glasses, right? AR glasses, and you have your algorithm, whatever the abstract series, and you could be using mixed with AI, you could be targeting certain things in your environment just by the ocular, you know, just by looking. And
That reminds me
you
of
can program it to pick up different things and already be doing the analysis and feeding it back to you in, like, you know.
right. I think that's actually a really good
There's a
idea.
Sassy Barker over there, you know.
Or do you remember in the Matrix movie? Hate to make such a reference.
It's the best movie.
They try to make it sound realistic by saying there's way too much information to decode the matrix. That's why it has to come down in green screen. So we might be talking about an abstraction layer that empowers technologies that are currently held back by data processing and perhaps data streaming if the AI is receiving data from somewhere else, processing it, sending it back, or if it has to be analyzed in real time. Perhaps we don't yet have the technology to analyze things in extremely granular form on the fly.
We need a different
like
language,
to detect
hieroglyphs.
Cancer like that. But perhaps with an abstraction of what you're looking at and a reliable training of abstracted models, perhaps you could introduce the abstraction as protocol as a way to do as a way to empower essentially any industry that leverages AI, but understands that all of this data scanning and storing is extremely expensive.
Yeah. I mean, I guess when you're using quintessential forms, you are also, in a sense, creating a system that can use less data, but achieve as much information as you might otherwise. I don't know.
And it doesn't have to be reinterpreted into the graphic. It's only abstracted for the purpose of fast analysis.
Yeah. I mean, we're getting to part of the conversation that's probably beyond my brain at the moment, but I love it.
For the record, I wanted to put into the meeting that we have a couple of new teammates. The gentleman, Richard, is my main developer. He has the back-end architecture and database experience that I lack. My plan is to do all of the on-chain and off-chain. In addition, we have a couple of artists that are interested, but far too busy. Good news is with NAPSHA and the utility token offering launch, no artist should really have to do anything. In fact, I expect all artists to make a new series that they would like to make a ton of money selling, but technically artists don't have to do anything. I can leverage the NAPSHA framework to add perks or abilities to any token on the ecosystem.
What they're already doing.
And in fact, as a fun point, technically I can't stop anyone from adding a perk to a certain token, which means these utility token offerings, these initial tokens, will be grandfathered in and given emphasized placement and a a subsidized query credit. That's a NAPSHA business cap that they pay for to power the tokens or for the gates. Meaning there's no way to tell what kind of abilities the tokens will accrue over time. Which means we will need some sort of reverse blockchain analysis system to be able to inform people that your drip NFT suddenly gained a new power.
Right. Yeah. I guess I've been sort of thinking about like those tokenomics. And say, for example, with the Abstraction Series in its initial sort of iteration is, you know, there's actually like just black and white, there's millions of possible combinations. But once you add color, you know, you've got quintillion, like, you know, I don't know what the number is. And so, you know, obviously, you know, it'd be fantastic to sell quadrillion NFTs to people, but I think a more humane kind of way of dealing with it would be to say, you know, within the metrics we're dealing with in the space at the moment, is you'd say, okay, 10,000 or 30,000 NFTs are sold, whether that's kind of staged or whatever, and that those original holders then have, you know, I guess the first 30,000 out of the billions, quadrillions, and then you use all of those other possible ones to actually be the bank that you would feed back to the original holders through drips, and that would be their kind of, I guess, their equity, and then they could sell those to others, but you know, they wouldn't be minted again, you know, different things.
I think this is great. Technically an abstraction of an art piece. If you could make a reliable way to a stable hash of the art, the hash of the art, the abstracted art, is just as good as the art. It's the same thing.
It's
right?
The same thing, yeah.
Because the hash is the unique identifier. There's sort of Godel numbers. But there's one big twist, and the twist is with your abstraction series, there's no open viewing, right? You can have the abstraction, but nobody actually is seeing art. And you could have the artist choose the page or website or what have you, where the art can be viewed or how it can be interacted with, and then what tokens or abstractions it proves that you can see that. Right? If you submit a hash of the art to such a system, it could reference that hash to give you back the art.
So it acts like a visual mnemonic.
You could hash the abstraction and then just have a database check these hashes and give you, and if it finds a match, it returns an image. This would be maybe one next step that we don't have yet, where you're not allowed to view, and just the ability to be able to give people this ability just means more flexibility, and another step closer to the digital being closer to the reverence and the fiduciary responsibility of with blockchain. Amazing. Artists, the millions of artists that are not on Cardano are not on Cardano either because they don't know about it, but I'm concerned about the ones that are staying away because they plainly see what it is. Very difficult to control. The policy idea of the tokens is a very good thing, but it's just not a catch-all for all problems. Like what happens when the artist is not even on the blockchain? How do you protect him? You could
it just becomes
have a artist registry that can take in a massive amount of images and store them in abstraction format. You follow me? and use that as like an official repository of real life, off-chain and on-chain artists that could potentially catch future counterfeiters, unknown counterfeiters.
I'm just at this point just taking it in.
All that has changed, all that we've done is we've taken the centralized thinking that everybody is trying to do on Cardano and just laying it out as a service for everyone.
Yeah, so maintaining that idea of it being an infrastructure for people to, you know, find their own use, validate their own use.
It's 9 o'clock. I'm going to see if I'm going to see what the party is like downstairs. They were talking about staking pools when I got in earlier. I think they have something more interesting now. But this was an amazing call. I really appreciate it. Oh my God, you have a roadmap.
Yeah, I'll send you this. It just sort of, yeah. Actually, Jub has helped a lot, being a good sounding board for me to develop.
Yeah, I was going to
this.
actually ask if I could get a copy of this as well, if possible.
Yeah, I will. Yeah, I'll send it. What would
Fantastic,
be the
thank
best
you.
way? Just send you a link to my Google file. I think that'll work, won't it?
Yeah, this is really smart. As a handful of unique ways that it could serve the community on top of being interesting.
Yeah.
I don't know if you saw, but I plan on having real powers live by the sale date that they can use the tokens and play with them on the same day. Some of those are being developed right now. The last thing that I want is to ask people for what is tentatively $90,000 to ensure the development of Abstraction, and then just promise later. Hopefully, the tokens will actually have some sort of function. I would rather have the tokens have this gating function on day one. And one thing I'd like to do to capture attention is to give physical power. Once you get your token, you go to a specific page, doesn't matter which, a specific page to validate the token. And this time, NAPSHA is no longer just you have the token, now you log in, load your profile info. Now the gate key is something totally different. You have the NFT, therefore the return value is now a script. And the script is an Amazon FBA shipping request, and it is ran server side instead of being sent back to the script. Now, you may be thinking, oh, okay, so how do I not use this token to get 1,000 free t-shirts? NAPSHA gate keys, there are essentially rows in databases, and they could even cascade or be fired all at once, but they also have optional use caps. The artist can decide that the validation is limitless, specific, time-based, or one-time use only, which will be really the only way that concerts will want to do things. On top of that, NAPSHA local might be coming sooner than we think, but by sooner I mean 6 months from the time that NAPSHA is funded, the sale date. NAPSHA local opens up a lot of new opportunities, but it's essentially the same thing. Something of value, gaining entry to a club, redeeming an NFT for a product, proving that you are a VIP customer and getting a 15% discount. Anything that the existing old physical POS systems of the local businesses can handle, NAPSHA can handle. So let's say you have a 10-year-old computer in your physical store, but you know what gift cards are. Businesses love gift cards because it's a very cheap, easy way to make more money. All you have to do is tell the business owner, think of the NFTs as a gift card. When you can add a power to an existing NFT, but in the case of a local business, it's more likely you want to mint your own on the spot. Then use those just like you know how to use a gift card, a VIP club card, anything that is representative value, right? And then NAPSHA validates the token and returns what is deserved. The return value can be as simple as a string, a discount code. And the discount code is seen by the cashier, and that is how it integrates with this old cash register that only does discount codes, but doesn't even connect to the internet.
Yeah, makes sense.
The only trick there is how do you prevent fraud? How do you prevent me from buying a concert ticket, getting into the concert, and then selling? I'm sorry, and then passing the ticket to my friend to get in again. Or how do you prevent me buying a ticket, making a screenshot of the QR or whatever I have to do to show the bouncer, and then selling it and getting into the concert anyway? There needs to be a
Abstraction Series hash. You run your Abstraction Series hash through it.
No, it's actually pretty simple. I want to go the way of like Google Authenticator.
Oh, sorry, you were big. Well, yeah, I wondered whether this has the potential of being an authenticator. This kind of because the sheer volume of possible combinations means that you could essentially be, bringing up a different abstraction every time.
Yeah. All right, this has been great, but I'm gonna
Yeah.
go wash my face. I'm gonna go see what's happening downstairs.
All right, and I'll send you guys a link to this.
So it'll be interesting to watch the replay. And Jub, thank you so much for being so Jub.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Yeah, this was good. I'll talk to you guys soon.
All righty, take care.
Bye guys.
Take
Oh,
care.
do you need me to hand over controls so you keep this as a recording, CMOS?
I have a flashing recording button here.
Okay, so you still got
I
control.
think we're all set. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Cool.
Definitely send me this presentation. We'll follow up on it more.
Will do.
All right.
Yeah,
About 5 or
absolutely.
6 more calls, guys. Appreciate it.
All right.